สวัสดีค่ะเคนต์
สวัสดีครับ
สบายดีไหมคะ
สบายดีครับ
กินข้าวหรือยังคะ
อืมกินแล้ว
กินอะไรคะวันนี้กินอะไร
อืมกินผัดไทย
กินผัดไทยอร่อยไหมคะ
โอ้อร่อยมาก
อร่อยมากโอเคtoday we're gonna be talking about your learning Thai journey in relation to learning Thai script because a lot of people told me or came to me and they said that they're too old to learn Thai script or even learn Thai in general. So just hoping that this video will inspire a lot of people who's in your age or maybe younger to start learning Thai if they want to. So the first question is, the first time you see Thai script, did you find it daunting?
Yes, I did.
Okay. At which point that you felt like this was not impossible to do, like or to learn? What makes you change your mind and learn Thai script if it was daunting at first?
Well, it was daunting because it was, to me, unique. It was completely different than anything I've seen. But once I started learning the script, the sounds are the same as what I already know. I mean, there's a few unusual sounds,
Mm,
but most of them are the same, and you just have to associate that sound with the script. And then it
mm-hmm,
became a lot easier.
okay. How do you find tones?
Um, it's taken me a while to. It took a while to learn the tones,
Mm,
but in Thai, if you don't know the tones, you don't know the words. So
mm.
you'll be
Okay,
talking nonsense.
right. Are you familiar with the five tones in Thai now? How are you with the tones so far?
Um, I'm familiar with them. I still
Mhm.
mix them up every once in a while. Um, and that's partly my brain because I think I'm doing high tone, but it ends up being falling tone. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Does Thai script help with tone rules and stuff? Does it make more sense
yes,
than, yeah?
oh, absolutely. If you pay attention to the tone marks on the words on the letters, then you can understand what sound that word makes to speak it. So, yes,
Mm, mm. So remember we learned in our class, we only did like seven letters to start, seven consonants. So I did teach you
right.
guys like the whole thing. Do you find that approach like more doable and more like realistic or practical? Because like I heard that some people learn like 44 consonants right off the bat. How do you find that approach?
Um, I like that approach. It reminds me of an old saying that how do you walk from here to Timbuktu? Well, you take one step at a time.
Hmm.
You can't take the whole trip at once. So learning those first tone or the first characters was a lot better than trying to learn 44 at once.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, that actually helped better for slow learners too, right? Or for people who find that it's really difficult to remember everything all at once. Like me, for example, I cannot remember
right.
everything all at once. That's why that's why I designed the course that actually cater to people who like cannot really remember or memorize everything all at once. That's just me too. How important it is for you to have the framework as in Thai script to learn the pronunciation? Because a lot of people said that I don't need to be a scholar. I just want to speak. So I don't need Thai script. Like, what's your take on that? Because I personally find like when my students learn Thai script, that pronunciation is more on point and actually easier for me to teach them more complex structures later on. What's your take on the pronunciation or on the Thai script affecting the pronunciation or help with the pronunciation?
Um, I think it's very important. When I was starting, I would go to the market and try to say something, and nobody, including my wife, understood what I was trying to say. So um, once I started getting the Thai script, I can now read the signs in a
Mm.
lot of cases, and when I do say something, everybody's not scratching their head wondering what I'm talking about. So um, it's very important if you actually want to have conversations in Thai to be able to understand the script.
Since you mentioned about the size and everything, like in Thai, what does it feel like to be able to read like size and menus in Thai and all of that? Is that like a whole different kind of experience as like compare with like before that you couldn't read anything?
Oh, it's very pleasant. And when I
Hmm.
can read the menu, and figure out what the food is, and um, I remember standing in front of this one sign one day trying to figure it out, and it said something about we accept credit cards or something. It's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
okay, something really simple. And but before it was like, it could have been in Russian as far as I knew. So
Uh, what is the feedback in general when people find that you can actually read Thai script and actually can write Thai? Did they comment on your like achievement, or did they feel like impressed that you can actually read the letters?
yeah, my relatives here um, always have fun having me read
Mm-hmm.
what I've done for my homework. If I make a mistake, they'll correct me, but it's been a lot of fun to read to them
Mm-hmm.
and practice. So they seem pleased that I'm learning.
Okay, cool. How long have you been learning with me?
A little over 2 years.
Over 2 years. And then we have been doing like regular lessons regularly too, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I know for a fact that you haven't had a lot of opportunities to practice your Thai because your wife is fluent in English too. So I guess your progress is not as fast as people who have more opportunities and can engage themselves in conversation fully. But how happy are you from like scale 1 to 10, like with your progress and everything, from whatever possible way you could do? What would be your score for yourself?
Well, as you said, if I had more opportunity to practice in-house, I'd probably be a little bit farther along.
Hmm.
But I'm very happy with my progress. I've had to revisit the tone rules because it, sometimes it gets a little bit fuzzy. So
Hmm.
that's been helpful. So I don't know, 9 out of
9?
10.
Wow, great.
So I'm
Um,
happy.
so you also had great experience practicing with my sister too, right? And my
Oh,
sister's
yes.
friend, yeah,
Yeah,
buddy
that's
program. That's good.
that's very
That's good.
helpful.
Yeah. So I'm trying to help as much as I can because I know that you didn't get a chance to speak Thai. Yeah, I think it's very important to make it a priority and routine for you. What would be your advice for people who think that they're too old to learn? And or maybe also people who think that because you're retired, right? So people usually say like, oh, you have all the time in the world to practice and all that. Maybe some advice for people who think they're too old, or maybe advice for people who think that they don't have time for it. Yeah. Can you give them some advice?
Yeah. About being too old, that's all in your head. You're never too old to learn something new. So I don't agree with that. You can convince yourself you're too old, but you're not. It's never been a problem for me to try to tackle something new. If something breaks, I figure out how to fix it,
Mm.
in our house. Even if I've never done that before, I can learn how to do that now.
Hmm.
So I'm not too worried about
Learning
being too
something
old to.
new. Yeah.
Yeah, language is working with your brain to learn a new task.
Hmm.
It's nothing. It's not really that daunting. And if you get a good teacher, such as you, then
Thank you,
um,
Kat.
then it makes it a lot more, it makes it easier, and there's a process to it. So
Hmm.
that's really nice. And I forgot the second half of your question.
The second question is for people who said, "Oh, I'm too busy. I cannot make time for it." What would be your advice for them? I have my own advice, but I'll share with you in a second.
It's like exercise. If you want to exercise, you have to find time in the day to do that. You can spend as much time as you want trying to learn Thai, but you need to set aside that time to do it, because it's really easy to be too busy, but most of the time you're not doing anything. You
Right,
know,
just scrolling Facebook, browsing.
yeah, yeah, you're doing something that's nonsensical or
Right.
completely irrelevant.
Hmm.
And if you focused a half hour or an hour on this,
Hmm.
language, then that's your time right there. There's the day is pretty long. In Thailand, it's split half daytime and half nighttime. So I'm sure you can find some time in there to study your Thai.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's like, such good advice. And for me, a piece of advice from me would be just I usually tell this to my students who are like busy. I said, just try to make 5 to 10 minutes a day because I feel like a lot of time we feel like when we cannot accomplish the set time or like let's say we set a time for half an hour and if we cannot accomplish that we feel like a failure and we feel like we don't want to do it anymore. But actually, we don't need to go or aim that far. We can just aim for 5 to 10 minutes. And if you do more than that, great. If you can do only 5 minutes, then that's okay because that's the small goal that we set for ourselves. So I usually just say that to people like, you're going to end up doing more. And if you don't do it more, then that's okay. And this is something that I always tell people, like, you don't need to learn Thai if you don't want to. But if you want to, then make it a priority. Otherwise, you're going to keep paying me for nothing. And I'm not happy with that, you know. And then the result always happen in between sessions. You need to put in work. It doesn't matter how
Right.
great I am. I could be the best teacher in the world, but if you guys don't put in work, you're not gonna see any results. Yeah. So, and you have been such a dedicated student and practicing a lot. So I'm really proud of you. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today, Kent, for sharing this experience. And I hope this video gonna help a lot of people to to make that decision to learn Thai somehow. It doesn't have to be with me or with other teachers or self-study or whatever, but Thai script is really important.
I agree.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much นะคะ Ken for being here today. Okay ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณครับ
รักทุกคนค่ะจุ๊บจุ๊บ You can do it